Nze the promiscuous man. Nze the polygamous man. Nze the title man. I hear you. The mighty Nze, I hear you. His wife Ego mocked him. My polygamous husband, I think it's high time you call one of your mistresses to come and be carrying you around because I am tired. This is not the life I planned. It's not the life I once imagined with you. Ego shouted at helpless Nze, who had fallen on the ground, unable to carry himself up. He knew he was at his wife's mercy and held himself from telling her what was in his mind. Ego forcefully dragged him up and pushed him on the bed, and Nze cried out in pain to Ego's satisfaction. Ego laughed so loud, saying to him, My polygamous husband, remember you are a title man, and title men don't cry. She sighed and left him in pain. When she left the room, Nze looked up to the ceiling, crying and calling on the gods of their land to come to his rescue. He felt like a prisoner in his own house. He felt he no longer had a grip on his wife. He kept asking himself why Ego could be so wicked and mean to him. He felt better when his friend Obi visited that afternoon. Obi helped reposition him on the bed. When he saw Obi, he started crying. But Obi held him and asked him to stop, that the gods of their land would not let anything happen to him. He was telling Obi how his wife Ego had changed and abandoned him. The worst part is that she hardly stays home and he doesn't have idea where she goes to. He would have to beg her for days before she would throw food to him. She doesn't care to clean him up. She would always leave him in his own mess. And his domestic staff who takes care of him has left because he has no money to pay him again. His friend Obi listened attentively, waving his head sadly. When he looked at Nze on his bed, tears would come to his eyes. He was still finding it hard to believe that the man lying helpless on the bed was Nze, the great and powerful Nze. He turned and faced Nze, saying, I warned you, Nze. As if I saw this whole thing coming. I warned you. You won't say I did not warn you. I kept singing in your ears to leave women alone and go home to your family, but you didn't listen. Look at you today. Where are the women you lavish your money on? Where are they, Nze? Not even the one you left your good wife Ugomma for. Where is she? Was she not supposed to be by your side in sickness and health? Nze, where is your wife, Ego? You see, she has also abandoned you too. Obi stopped when he saw tears swelling up in Nze's eyes. Don't worry, Nze. Let's face the current situation. I won't stop until I find a cure for you. Nze thanked him and made him know he was the only one he was counting on for help, and also pleaded with him to visit regularly and also bring food along because his wife Ego hardly gives him food. She hardly stays at home. She would always claim because he smells so bad, she cannot stand the smell and she doesn't want to get infected. As Obi left, Nze was left all alone in the big house. Each time he thought he heard a voice, he would call Ego, but nobody would answer. He needed help. He needed someone to help him up to the bathroom to ease himself, but nobody was there. When he couldn't wait any longer, he messed up his clothes and bed. He slowly looked at himself. He couldn't believe that him, Nze, once a powerful man, would be reduced to almost nothing. Hot tears were streaming down his face. He remembered his first wife, Ugomma. The more he thinks of her, the more he cried. He realized too late how he lost a priceless jewel and picked up a snake in place of her. He wished he could start all over again. He disliked himself for the way he treated Ugomma and their 3 children. How he had kept his wealth far from Ugomma and the children. He had made her a toy and fend for herself and the children. He hated himself more for bringing Ugomma's friend Ego home and breaking her into pieces. That night, he waited patiently for Ego and her 2 children to return home and give him something to eat, but there was no sight of Ego. He finally slept off with an empty stomach and in his own mess. The following morning, Ego returned. When he inquired where she was all night, Ego shouted at him and threatened to leave him in his mess and an empty stomach if he dare question her again. The fear of being denied food made Nze kept quiet. When Ego got to where he was lying helpless on the bed and seeing how he had messed up himself, she spat on him. dragged him off the bed all the way to the bathroom, telling him to die quick so that she could rest. The same way she dragged her into the bathroom was the same way she dragged him out. She made a salty breakfast and dropped on the bed for him. What hurt Nze the most was that his wife Ego had refused his children from seeing him, maintaining he would infect them with his incurable disease. He didn't get to see Ego again that morning. He was relieved when his friend Obi visited. Obi had brought him food, which cheered him up, but also brought a bad news. Nze, do you still remember that your mistress, the tall slim woman you usually call Ifem? Obi asked him. Yes, I remember, Nze said. What about Ifem? Is she asking after me? Does she want to see me? Nze asked Obi hopefully. Obi waved his head and told him Ifem was dead, and she had died after battling an unknown sickness similar to his. When Nze heard this, he pushed the food he was eating aside. He lost appetite instantly. He was staring at nothing in particular, with no expression on his face. It was when he turned to Obi and said to him, I am a dead man already. I am dying already. That Obi realized he shouldn't have told him the news of his dead mistress because of his present condition. Obi grabbed his hand and was trying so hard to convince him that nothing was going to happen to him, that he was a different person from Ifem. Obi was scared to leave his friend Nze. He stayed with him until late in the night when he fell asleep. All the while he was with Nze, his wife Ego was nowhere to be found. He was so worried for his friend Nze. The following morning, he rushed back to his friend's house. When he got to his friend's house, he met Nze crying, begging his wife Ego, who had come that morning to pack her things out of the compound. She insisted she was leaving, that she can no longer continue living in the same house with a dead-smelling man like Nze. When Obi saw his friend Nze in tears, his heart was broken. He joined his friend to beg Ego, but Ego insulted and abused him. When the two friends saw that she was bent on leaving, Obi told her she cannot live with his friend's children and asked her to drop the two children. But they got the shock of their life when Ego asked Nze how sure he was that they are his children. She told him that they were never his children and she had decided to take them to their real father, where they would get a better life. Nze and Obi were dumbfounded. They watched her leave the big compound with the two kids. Obi was confused. He didn't know what to do next. He told his friend Nze not to worry, that he would bring someone that would be taking care of him. But Nze told him he was penniless. He doesn't have any money again to pay a domestic staff. Obi told him not to worry, that he would see to that. Obi helped clean him up, brought food to him. He was afraid that if he leaves Nze to go back to his house, something bad might happen to him. He decided to spend a night in Nze's house. All through the night he couldn't sleep. He knew that his friend was going gradually. He needed a professional medical care, but they cannot afford it because the sickness has taken all they had. The following morning, he suggested to his friend Nze to sell some of his lands. Let them use the money to seek professional medical care in a very far developed town. Nze agreed without thinking it twice. They put some of his lands on sale, which they sold out in 4 days. Obi hurriedly took his friend Nze out of their community to a very big developed town that took them 8 days to reach. He took him to the best hospital there. Nze was admitted in the hospital. Soon they found out the money they raised from the sold land was not enough. Obi had to go back home to sell more lands. He was discharged 2 months after his health improved. Obi took him home. Nze was glad when he stepped his feet in his compound. He couldn't stop thanking the gods and his dear friend, even though he wasn't fully recovered. He begged his friend Obi to go to his first wife, Ugomma's house, and plead with her. He wanted to see her. He would have gone himself, but he was still on his sick bed. Still needed Obi's help to move around his house. When Ugomma saw Obi, she recognized him at once. She welcomed Obi and asked him why he had come. Obi told her that Nze had sent him, that he wanted to see her. Ugomma snapped her fingers and screamed, "God forbid!" She asked Obi to leave immediately, but her father calmed her down and asked her to go and know why Nze wanted to see her. After hearing Nze's story, Ugomma obeyed her father and went with Obi. When they entered Nze's compound, Ugoma was shocked. It looked like a graveyard with no life inside. She wondered where the domestic staff had gone to. When she saw what was left of Nze, she screamed and cried her eyes out. She kept asking what happened to him. Nze managed to rise from his bed. With tears in his eyes, he asked Ugoma to forgive all he did to her and the children, that he was so sorry. When Ugoma got home, she narrated to her father what her eyes saw. She begged her father to let her go and assist Nze until he is strong enough to stand on his feet. Her father allowed her. Obi was relieved. Now he could go back to his family after months of being away from his family. Ugoma stayed with Nze until he was strong again and able to take care of himself. When Ugoma saw that he was well again, she packed her things and went back to her father's house. All the while she was with Nze, Nze had been pleading with her to let go of the wrongs he did her and please give their marriage a chance again. A week after Ugoma got home, Nze, together with his friend Obi and his kinsmen, came looking for Ugoma and the children at Ugoma's parents' house. Nze pleaded for forgiveness and asked Ugoma to please take him back as her husband. Ugoma told him she had long forgiven him, but she had fallen in love again with someone else and they are planning their marriage. Nze and his kinsmen had no choice than to go back home. When he got home, he cried until he can no longer cry. He wished that the gods would turn back the hands of the time, but it was too late. Our story has come to an end. Most often, we don't realize what we have until we lose it. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Please do well to subscribe for other amazing videos. We really appreciate your support and time. Thank you so much. Bye.